In this video, I'll show you how to use advanced options in the Appearances panel to make a rippled water texture along the shoreline of Lake Champlain. Just as a warning, there's a lot of repetitive clicking in this exercise. So first up, I'm going to lock this labels layer that we just used, and I'm going to unlock the Lake Champlain layer, which contains this compound path that represents the shoreline of the lake. And just so that we get a better view of this while we're working on the shoreline, I'm going to zoom right in on the shoreline. Next, I'm going to open up this thing called the Appearances panel, and I'll drag it off the toolbar just so that we can have it there for the entire time we're working. In this panel, it shows us for an object that's selected what all of the different aspects of its appearance are. So in this case, it's really pretty simple. We just have a stroke, and it's 0.2 points in size, and there's no fill. We are going to essentially add multiple strokes to this compound path that are offset from this path, so that they work further and further and further into the interior of the lake and draw these sort of offset ripples into the lake. So the first thing we're going to do in order to accomplish this is add a new stroke. There's a button right down here called Add New Stroke. And if we do that, we get this new stroke that pops up, and we have the option to affect its size. Let's actually make its size 0.1, which is going to be nice and thin. We would like it to continue being a black stroke, so we'll leave it at that. But now if I click this little caret down, you can see that it only has one sort of effect that is affecting it, and that's its opacity, and its default right now. It's at 100%, and we'll leave it that way. We're going to add another effect to this stroke, which is going to cause it to offset a bit from the current shoreline. So if we come up to the Effect toolbar up here, if we come down to Path, and then go to Offset Path, to start with, we want to offset this path by 0.2, and because we want that offset to go towards the interior of the object, we're actually going to call that a negative 0.2 offset. We'll make sure that the joins in that offset are rounded off so that we have nice round kind of contour lines that are moving in through. And if we hit the preview button, you can see that what that's going to do is just set ever so slightly a second line away from that initial line. So we'll hit OK. And if we zoom in a bit more, you can see that there's now this offsetted line that is still associated with the shoreline. So let's say that we needed to make a change to the shoreline. If we grab the direct selection tool here and selected just that vertex and moved it, that new line is going to move right with it. It's not an object in and of itself. It's just an appearance that is affecting the original path. So now let's once again grab the whole Lake Champlain shape, and all we're going to do now is copy this stroke that we've made, this 0.1 point stroke with an offset on it, we're going to drag it down to the new button right there, and then release, and you'll see that we get a third stroke. Now we can click offset there, and I'm going to change this next one to 0.4, so it'll be offset by just a little bit more, and now we get a third line. And we're just going to repeat this process, offsetting it a bit more each time. We're up to 0.6, and then to 0.8, offset path, and then finally to 1.1. I'm going to sort of gradually increase the spacing between these. So now we're up to a point where we've got 0.4 points between this last one and this next one, whereas we started that with only 0.2 between each one. Okay, so I'm nearing the end here. I've just got 2 more to go, and I am out to the point where there's now 2 points of space between each one. So this one, the last one was 16 points away, and now I'm to 18, and I'm going to make my last one at 20. And you can see that it's taking a lot of kind of processing thought for the computer to accomplish this, but it's not too bad. Okay, so there is my last one, and if I zoom out here, you can see that there are a lot of little lines in there, but it's really helping to give the lake this sort of depth. And you can also see that in places where it's just simply not wide enough for there to be all 20 of those offsets, it's just not drawing the most interior ones, and that's sort of a nice like automatic benefit. One thing you can see though is that there are a few places where unfortunately some errors in the way that the shoreline is drawn, and so we're getting these little triangles that are sort of hanging off. They're really not supposed to be there. And then there are some other places where it's just sort of awkward for these little slivers of offset line to be hanging out. And so what I really like to do is I'd like to turn them all into their own lines so that we can decide, gee, I'd really rather delete, these ones that are erroneous or these ones that really just don't make that much sense to be hanging out. And so what I'm going to do next is come up and select this compound path, and then come up to the object menu and select expand appearance. And when it says expand appearance, it's referring to the appearance options that are described in this appearance menu. And you can see now it's expanded those so that these are, rather than being just one compound path with a lot of different offsetted lines that are imposed through an effect, you have many, many, many different compound paths. So we can actually come in here now and with our direct selection tool, select just that piece and delete it. If we select that piece and press the delete button twice, we can delete that compound path. There's a little bit of an error. I'm not too worried about that. And unfortunately, we don't really have a lot we can do about that now that we've expanded all of these paths, because we would have to go back and edit each one of those one by one. So this one I think is a little bit too, it's just too small. It's not really helping us out any in there. And then there are these little triangles down here that we can get rid of. I think this one is probably too small to really be helping. We'll get rid of that. And there we are. We have this nice textured effect of water ripples on the lake. Right at the end now, we have a great opportunity to demonstrate how the layers affect the hierarchy of drawing within our Illustrator document. If we were to zoom down in here to where the Lamoille River runs into Lake Champlain, you can see that the lines for the Lamoille River are running out into the lake, and that's because over here in the layers, you can see Vermont rivers are above Lake Champlain, so they're being drawn above the Lake Champlain features. And we'd really rather have those lines just sort of end right at the shore as they intersect the black line that's the shoreline of the lake. So I'm going to take two steps to change that. First of all, I'm just going to take this Lake Champlain layer and drag it right up on top of Vermont rivers. You can see that didn't change a lot because none of the compound paths that represent the lake have any fill to them. So we're just seeing the rivers right through, the river lines right through the compound paths with the interiors that are transparent. So the second step I'm going to take is to come in here to the groups and try to find the outermost compound path, which you can see I've just selected. It's right at the bottom of the stack there. And I'm just going to come over and give that a white fill. And so that way it's essentially blocking. It's sitting on top of that river path and is just making those rivers look like they end right at the edge of the lake.